We've got our finger on the pulse of local and international maritime trade. It's Nimasa this week. Hello and welcome. My name is Iretiola Doyle. As part of the efforts geared towards improving local capacity in line with global best practices towards Nigeria's economic development, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, has embarked on a series of capacity-building projects. Now, according to the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of Nimasa, Mr. Ziakede Patrick Akubulukemi, these projects are feasible due to the immense support of President Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Our correspondent, Rachel Ubani, in our first report, highlights some of these capacity-building projects.
One of the milestones recorded by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, in pursuit of its mandate is in the area of capacity building. The establishment of the Nigerian Maritime University, tailored to provide a long-term solution to the dearth of qualified professionals in the Nigerian maritime sector, is worthy of mention. Performing the groundbreaking ceremony of the university at Okerinkoko recently, President Goodluck Jonathan commended Nimasa for the giant strides in capacity development, which has tremendously impacted on the sector.
The Ministry of Transport thank the Minister, the Permanent Secretary, and other management staff of the Ministry, and the Chairman of the Board of Nimasa, the DG, and all their team for bringing us today. But with the establishment of this maritime university here, because the issue of manpower is key, and we believe that this is a good thing to help significantly in terms of producing the required manpower for this blue economy.
The Nimasa shipyard and dockyard intended as a support to the university by providing opportunity for practical training of naval architects, marine communication and control engineers is also remarkable. The Minister of Transport, Senator Idris Umar, at the launch of the facility, remarked that the project was a laudable initiative put in place by Nimasa because of its ability to generate capable local manpower, which will contribute to economic development.
Today's gathering for this important occasion is in line with the need to unlock the potentials of the sector for manpower development, job and wealth creation opportunities for Nigerians, and the federal government is committed to ensuring the successful takeoff, given its desirable impact on the realization of Nigeria's maritime potentials.
In the same vein, the Director General and Chief Executive Officer Nimasa, Mr. Ziakede Patrick Akubulukemi, speaking at the International Maritime Organization's IMO training of flag state and port state inspectors recently, noted that empowering surveyors and inspectors is key to the operations of any maritime administration.
Now, to tell you that we are resolved in making progress in terms of flag state and port state administration or responsibilities, we have gone a step further to sponsor over 2,500 cadets in different parts of the world. Give us 10 years, we're going to compete favorably with any country anywhere in the world in terms of human capacity in the maritime industry.
Nimasa also established maritime institutions in 4 Nigerian universities to consolidate the NSDP scheme. The Nimasa Science and Technical College was set up to grow young professionals in the industry and to serve as a feeder to the Maritime University. Identifying the fact that a well-trained workforce provides the ingredients for a highly productive sector, Nimasa has engaged in the training and retraining of dock workers on a regular basis. The Executive Director of Maritime Safety and Shipping Development, Captain Bala Agaba, expatiates further.
Training and retraining of dock workers is mandatory in line with ILO's Safe Work Agenda and the International Labour Standards, thus playing a significant role in improving productivity in the nation's maritime sector. It is in this light that I wish to inform you of the agency's resolve to utilize part of the funds accruing from the 0.5% individual earnings collected from dock labor employers to train dock workers.
The entry into force of the Maritime Labour Convention 2006 is another commendable feat which brought the country both national and international recognition.
No doubt, the global maritime industry will now witness an improvement in the quest for ensuring safe, secured and efficient shipping on cleaner oceans through the MSC 2006 regime. Recently, Nimasa set up a joint tech committee to review ship owners that will benefit from Nimasa's financing fund. The Executive Director of Maritime Labour and Cabotage Services, Barrister Nwambweze Obi, explains.
This program has nothing to do with the CVFF fund. This particular program was initiated by the agency to help those who do not have the structure to access the CVFF. So these are people you will say that are not as solid as those applying for the CVFF.
The journey is on. With the landmark progress recorded so far, the goal of being the maritime hub in Africa is not far-fetched.
The 2014-2015 admission list of students into Nimasa Science and Technical College, NSTC, Okoloba, Delta States. The following candidates have been offered admission into the Nimasa Science and Technical College, NSTC, Okoloba, Delta States for the 2014-2015 academic session. The candidates should report at the Nimasa Warri office at 19 Warri Sapele Road, Warri, Delta States from 22nd to 27th September 2014 by 9 a.m. for documentation. Candidates must be accompanied by their parents or guardian with the following for registration: original credentials for citing, 2 duplicate copies of the credentials, 2 passport-size photographs of candidates, 1 passport-size photograph of either parent or guardian. For further enquiries, call 0806 879 7703, 0708 136 8556, or visit www.nimasa-gov.ng/NSTC. Signed, Management.
Regulations are now in force for the phasing out of single-hull tankers due to the threat that they pose on the world's waterways. Now, Nigeria, always being one of the first countries to comply, has adopted and ratified the MAPO Convention, which imposes the final phasing out date for this type of vessel. Now, to further elucidate on the factors that have led to the phasing out of the single-hull tanker, our waterways correspondent put together our next report and also had the privilege of speaking with the head of Maritime Safety and Seafarer Standards, Engineer Vincent Udoye, on the steps that Nimasa is taking to implement this convention.
Most oil tankers are currently of single-hull design. In such vessels, oil in the cargo tank is separated from the seawater only by a bottom and a side plates. Should these plates be damaged as a result of collision or stranding, the content of the cargo tank risks spilling in the sea and causing serious pollution. The phasing out of single-hull tanker is a global initiative. in order to protect our world's water from oil pollution from large tankers. The phasing out of single-hull tankers began in 2003, with the final phase-out to occur in 2015. Nimasa, as the maritime regulatory agency, is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that ship owners in Nigeria comply with the already signed IMO regulations. To discuss and also educate us on the all-important issue is the head Maritime Safety and Seafarer Standard at Nimasa, Engineer Vincent Udoyi. I'm delighted to have you on this segment of Nimasa this week.
Thank you very much.
Where did the single-hull tanker issue originate from?
The single-hull issue is quite an interesting issue because it has to do with trying to curtail accidents in the riverine maritime environment. Actually, ship accidents has always been there, and of course it was the incident of 1989 that involved the Exxon Valdez that was carrying crude oil from Alaska to California that hit a reef and spilled over 225,000 barrels of oil. It was at this point that the United States government, the Congress met and passed a law. What they had, the Oil Pollution Act, OPA 1990. And from that, they wanted to ban every vessel that is single hull from coming to the United States coast. And so the United States delegates went to the IMO to press the need to ensure that every tanker carrying crude oil must be double hull and not single hull. And of course, the IMO obviously set up a committee that deliberated on this issue. And eventually it is here with us today.
The sensitization workshop Nimasa will be having with indigenous ship owners in Nigeria. Please tell us, what is the need for this sensitization workshop?
The DG of Nimasa and even my own executive director, Maritime Safety Captain Bala Agaba, they are all very, very sympathetic to the cause of the Nigerian ship owners. And if there is any way they can, lessen the burden on the Nigerian ship owners, we are going to do it. This is a regulation that has been made, of which we are a part. We are a party to the regulation. We want to enforce the law. From 31st of December 2015, single-hull tankers will not be able to trade anywhere in the world. That is what the law is. That is the regulation, okay? However, there's an opportunity. The IMO knows very well that countries are not usually at the same level of compliance. So the IMO always gives what I prefer to call a window of opportunity. When you are enforcing these laws, you look at your own local situation. For instance, in Nigeria today, our research has shown that over 80% of all the tankers owned by the indigenous ship owners are single-hull tankers. Now, what does that mean? What is the implication of that? If these 80% of tankers are immediately phased out automatically, it is going to create a tremendous dislocation in the Nigerian maritime industry. Why do I say that? Of course, because the indigenous ship owners have not been able to replace their single-hull tankers with double-hull tankers as was anticipated. And so we still have a lot of single-hull tankers that dot our maritime environment. And so what is Nimasa going to do? It has given us so much concern. We've discussed it at the very, very senior level. We said, okay, we are going to organize a sensitization workshop where we'll invite all the stakeholders, the ship owners, okay? Let them come and talk with us. Let us realize what actually do they want, because we know there is a window of opportunity given by the IMO, and that is that as long as the vessel is not trading outside our domestic environment. We may allow single hull tankers which are greater than 600 gross tonnage but less than 5,000 gross tonnage to continue to operate as long as they are not going outside our territorial waters. IMO MAPO regulation 13G stipulates that we must carry out enhanced inspection on these tankers. Rather than going to dry dock maybe twice a year, twice in 5 years, we can reduce the duration for dry docking the vessel. So that we make sure that they carry out regular inspection to maintain seaworthiness. Okay? Of course, we also have to carry what is called a condition assessment scheme, CAS scheme, so that the vessels that we still allowed to operate after 2015 will subject themselves to a very rigorous inspection process so that we make sure that they remain seaworthy. Okay? Now think about what will happen if 80% of all indigenous ship owners, tankers, single hull tankers are stopped trading. Obviously, you're going to have thousands of Nigerian seamen all over the place without a job. But that is not even the major implication. What is going to happen to all the ships that are littered throughout the Nigerian coastline? We don't have enough ship-breaking yards at the moment. We don't have enough shipyards at the moment that can break these ships. So we're going to have an increase of wrecks, littering all over the Nigerian maritime space. And so Nimasa is looking at the plight of the indigenous ship owners. How can we work together? How can we actually give them a soft landing? Obviously, we have to comply with MAPO, but how can we create a soft landing so that these indigenous ship owners, as long as the vessel is properly maintained, is less than 25 years, the anniversary of the build of the vessel is less than 25 years, we can arrange something with them where they can continue to operate. So Nimasa is not ignorant of the plight of the single hull tanker owners. We are actually sympathetic to their cause, and we are hoping that within the next few weeks, we are going to have a sensitization workshop with all of them. We discuss with them, we sit down and talk with them and find out how we can help. Obviously, the law and the regulation of IMO that 2015 December single hull tankers has to be phased out has to apply. But then, of course, we might look at our own local environment and find out how we can ameliorate such a very stringent law on the indigenous ship owners.
Stakeholders in the maritime industry have applauded Nimasa for successfully implementing the International Ships and Ports Facility, otherwise known as the ISPS Code, here in Nigeria. This commendation was made during a one-day seminar which had the theme ISPS Code Implementation in Nigeria, How Far, How Well, which held recently in Lagos. Our correspondent Rachel Lubani reports.
The International Ship and Port Facility ISPS Code was born out of the need to heighten security measures in the maritime sector shortly after the 9/11 incident. The concept of the code was hinged on the premise that if the aviation sector could be hit by terrorists, the economies of the world would suffer a more devastating blow if the maritime sector was also targeted. 10 years after its introduction in Nigeria, journalists from the maritime sector under the aegis of Maritime Reporters Association of Nigeria, MARAN, converged on Lagos to appraise the implementation of the code in Nigeria. The one-day lecture on the theme, ISPS Code Implementation in Nigeria, How Far, How Well, would also enhance proper reportage of the topic, as explained by the president of MARAN, Bolaji Akinola.
We realize that there is a need for our members to really understand what ISPS Code is all about, okay? So that in the course of writing their stories, their reports, they will do it from an informed perspective.
The guest speaker, Captain Solomon Abiodun Omotosho, a marine consultant, in his lecture gave a background history of the code in Nigeria and its importance in securing the maritime domain.
I will remember that there has been security in ports before, but not to this extent. So the code came out, and the only section of the world community that is going to find it a bit difficult are the developing countries. So within the IMO, they created a special fund to assist the countries in implementation of ISPS code.
Responding to questions on how far and how well the implementation of the code has done in Nigeria, Captain Omotosho was full of exhortations for Nimasa.
The flag state administration was brought in as the designated authority for implementing the ISPS code. And within these 2 years, I think they've done extremely well when you consider the damages that have been done before they took over. The trainings are going on. They've endorsed some schools to train, the human element required. And for the first time in this nation, the inspection of ships coming to the port to make sure they are in compliance with ISPS code has been really, the percentage has gone on within some few years.
Journalists also seized the occasion to satisfy their hunger on issues bordering on compliance, challenges in implementing the code, and ways of modifying the code, among others. A port facility security officer, George Umana, sheds light on the different security levels in place and the implications of security level change, while also commending the efforts of Nimasa.
In as far as ISPS code is concerned, we have 3 security levels. You will be asked to open your boots. While coming back, you will be asked also normally to also open your book for search. You will be identified and the aim of why you are accessing that facility. So you will not be, in as far as you have a genuine business doing, you will not be restricted. You will undergo normal security documentations and they will grant you access.
There is no gainsaying the fact that Nimasa's vigorous pursuit of compliance with the ISPS code, which has resulted in 22 port facilities in Nigeria and counting being compliant, has tremendously improved security on the waterways, thereby promoting economic growth.
It's still Nimasa this week, the official mouthpiece of the Nigerian maritime sector. We'll be back after the break.
The Nigerian Maritime University is a strategic response to the perennial challenge of dearth of indigenous manpower in the sector. The university is expected to produce composite higher-level manpower for Nigeria's maritime shipping sector on a sustainable basis. It is a tertiary institution for the training of seafarers, master mariners, marine engineers, naval architects, nautical scientists, and other specialized maritime shipping trade skills.
Nimasa this week, the authoritative voice in the maritime sector.
And we've come to that point in the show where we bring you answers to questions that we have determined to be some of the most frequently asked on our show. And this week, we begin like this.
Our frequently asked question for this week is, what are the categories of ships that qualify to be registered by the Nigerian Ship Registry? S.A. Abdulsalam, the Registrar of Ships at Nimasa, was kind enough to answer the question.
Basically, what we do is we register vessels, vessels owned by Nigerians. Section 17 actually states the categories of vessels we are to register. Merchant ships, fishing vessels, fishing trawlers, vessels under construction, FPSOs and FSUs, and we also must have a register of vessels under license, that is vessels under 15 gross tons. So it's a statutory creation, and it's an office recognized under 3 principal legislations: the Merchant Shipping Act 2007, the Nimasa Act 2007, and the Cabotage Act 2003.
And so we come to the end of this week's edition of our show. As always, we hope we kept you educated and informed. Now, please don't forget, Nimasa this week is interactive. We want to respond to your comments, your questions, and even your criticisms. All you need to do is to send an email to the address currently showing on your screen. We're going to be here, same time, same station next week. Until then, we're wishing you smooth sailing and bon voyage.